The silences of Boyaca. The sun was rising behind the green mountains of Boyaca. The air smelled of wet soil and fresh coffee. In the small village of La Capilla, Ismael, a farmer with rough hands, looked at his cornfields. He had lived there all his life, between the land and the broken promises of the government. "They say this time there will be peace," said his neighbor, tying the mules. "They always say that," answered Ismael, shaking his head. "Peace is not signed, it's planted. And nobody gives us the seed." It was 1962, during the National Front in Colombia. On paper, the liberals and conservatives had agreed to share power to end the violence. But for farmers like Ismael, nothing really changed. The politicians in Bogotá spoke of unity, while people in the countryside still waited for land titles and fair prices. In the city of Tunja, Rosa, a young university student, walked through the halls of her teacher's college. She dreamed of becoming a rural teacher and bringing education to forgotten villages. She believed the National Front could bring a new beginning. "The country needs peace," she told her classmate Andres. "Peace for who?" he replied. "For those in offices, not for the people in the fields." Rosa stayed silent. Deep down, she knew he was right, but she feared another wave of violence. For her, education was the only real revolution. Meanwhile, at a shoe factory called El Progreso, Jose, a 40-year-old worker, was cleaning a machine while listening to a speech on the radio. The president spoke about progress and national unity. Jose smiled bitterly. "Unity?" he said softly. "Where's the raise? Where are our rights?" At first, Jose supported the National Front. He thought it would bring peace and justice. But over time, he saw that only the rich benefited, and workers like him were still ignored. One day, Jose saw a poster on the wall. "Assembly for Workers' Rights, Free Entrance, University of Tunja." There, he met teacher Camilo Rueda, a man with kind eyes and a strong voice. "Injustice will not end with agreements between parties," said Camilo. "It will end when people can decide for themselves." Jose listened carefully. That night, he told his wife he had heard words that made him believe again. Days later, Camilo was suspended from his job. They said he was a political agitator. Only a few dared to defend him. Rosa, one of his former students, went to visit him. "Teacher," she said, "you taught us that history is written by those who don't give up." "And you," he answered with a smile, "teach children to read, so no one lies to them." But fear was growing. Soldiers came to the streets of Tunja, arresting young people for security reasons. Among them was Andres, Rosa's friend. "I did nothing wrong," he shouted as they took him away. "We only asked for justice." When Ismael heard it on the radio, he remembered his brother, killed years before just for being a liberal. He realized that peace under the National Front was only a change of name, not of heart. Jose tried to form a small workers' union, but the factory owner fired him. "We don't need communists here," said the boss coldly. Teacher Camilo began teaching at home. He invited workers, farmers, and students. They talked about rights, history, and dignity. He didn't charge money. He only asked everyone to bring a candle for the night classes. One evening, Rosa visited him again. "Teacher, people are afraid to speak now," she said. "Fear only stays," he replied, "if we give it a place to sleep." But that night, fear didn't leave. Armed men came looking for Camilo. The next morning, his house was empty, and his chair stood alone by the window. News spread quickly. Rosa cried. Jose stopped going to the factory. Ismael listened to the radio in silence, hearing that agitators had been neutralized. He lowered his hat and felt the same sadness he had known all his life. Years passed. The National Front continued. The cities grew, but the countryside stayed poor. Rosa became a rural teacher. Jose moved to Bogotá to work fixing bicycles. Ismael grew old planting corn. In 1974, when the National Front ended, Rosa visited Camilo's grave. Someone had left a note that read, "Education is the root of freedom." She smiled through her tears. In the distance, children were playing, pretending to build a school. Rosa thought that, even after everything, there was still hope to plant. In Bogotá, Jose worked repairing bikes. Every time he saw students marching, he remembered Camilo's words, "Justice is not begged for, it is conquered." And far away in Boyaca, Ismael died one morning while watering his corn. His grandson found a small notebook with a line written inside. "One day, The children of the poor will not need permission to live with dignity. That morning, the sun rose again over the mountains of Boyaca. The land was still poor, the city still impatient, but between the memories of 4 lives, one truth remained. History is not written by governments, but by those who resist in silence.